He held the city in fear long before anyone knew his name. At first, it was just whispers, the kind that move faster than facts and settle deep in the gut. A shop burned down in the North District, no witnesses. A businessman disappeared on his way home, his car later found abandoned near the river, doors open, radio still playing. Then came the letters. Handwritten. Delivered to police stations, newspapers, even churches. No fingerprints. No return address. Just short sentences written in neat, almost calm handwriting. You are not safe. Order is coming. The city learned fear slowly, like a sickness. People checked their locks twice. Parents stopped letting children play outside after sunset. Streets that once buzzed with late-night cafes and music went silent by 10. Patrol cars became a constant presence, blue lights washing over empty sidewalks. And still, it wasn't enough. Because he wasn't random. That was the terrifying part. He chose carefully. He punished what he called rot. His real name was Daniel Cross, though no one used it anymore. To the media, he became the Watcher. To the people, he was something worse. A shadow with a purpose. Daniel had grown up in the city, in its cracked buildings and forgotten neighborhoods. He knew its rhythms, its shortcuts, its blind spots. He knew which alarms didn't work, which cameras were fake, which cops were tired enough to look the other way. He had watched the city for years before he ever acted. Watched how corruption thrived in daylight and innocence died quietly at night. His first confirmed victim was a landlord known for evicting families without notice, raising rents illegally, bribing inspectors. The man was found in his office, unharmed physically, but tied to a chair, surrounded by folders, documents proving years of fraud. Burn marks on the walls spelled a single word. Confess. The landlord did. On camera. The video spread online like wildfire. People argued whether it was justice or madness. But one thing was clear. Someone had crossed a line, and there was no going back. As weeks passed, Daniel escalated. A drug network collapsed after its leaders were exposed and brutally beaten but left alive. A judge resigned after evidence of bribery appeared on her doorstep. Each time, Daniel left a sign, always the same symbol, a simple eye drawn in black ink. The Watcher was everywhere, and nowhere. The police formed a special task force, but they were always one step behind. Daniel planned months ahead. He studied routines, weaknesses, human habits. Fear was his greatest weapon, and he used it perfectly. Detective Marcus Hale was assigned to the case when it became clear this wasn't going to end quietly. Hale was old school, worn down by years of unsolved cases and broken promises. He didn't believe in monsters. He believed in patterns. And what unsettled him most wasn't the violence, it was the logic behind it. The Watcher wasn't acting out of chaos. He was following a personal code. That made him dangerous. Men who believe they are right don't stop. Hale began to notice something others missed. The Watcher avoided innocent casualties. Every operation was surgical. Even the fires were controlled, set in abandoned buildings or insured properties tied to corruption. This wasn't rage. It was judgment. And judgment, Hale knew, always came from somewhere deep and personal. He started digging into old cases, scandals that were buried, victims who never saw justice. Slowly, a picture formed. Every target had escaped punishment years ago. Every one of them had walked free while others paid the price. Daniel's past finally surfaced like a body rising from dark water. His father, a factory worker, had died in an explosion officially labeled an accident. Unofficially, it was negligence covered up by bribes. Daniel's mother drank herself to death waiting for a court hearing that never mattered. Daniel himself vanished from records for years. No college. No military. Just gaps. Invisible years. Training. Hale suspected. Preparation. By now, the city was exhausted. Fear had turned into anger. Some people secretly supported the Watcher, calling him a necessary evil. Others demanded harsher police action, curfews, military presence. Daniel watched it all from the shadows, pleased and disappointed at the same time. He hadn't wanted chaos. He wanted awakening. But fear was easier than understanding. Still, he wasn't done. His final target was the biggest one yet. The city's mayor. The mayor was beloved publicly, praised for economic growth and reform. Privately, He was the keystone of a network built on lies. Daniel had proof. Enough to destroy him. But this time, Daniel made a mistake, not of morality, but of pride. He wanted the city to see the truth all at once. He planned a live broadcast. He broke into an abandoned TV relay station, setting up cameras, servers, backups. For the first time, he stayed in one place too long. Hale followed a hunch. A pattern in the broadcast signal. A forgotten maintenance tunnel beneath the old industrial zone. By the time the task force surrounded the building, Daniel was already on air. His face, calm and tired, filled screens across the city. He spoke slowly, clearly, laying out evidence, names, dates. The city listened, holding its breath. When the police stormed the room, Daniel didn't resist. He raised his hands, eyes steady. "You were never afraid of me," he told Hale quietly as cuffs clicked shut. "You were afraid of what I showed you." The arrest didn't bring instant relief. The city didn't celebrate. The evidence Daniel revealed couldn't be unseen. Investigations followed. Resignations. Trials. The mayor was arrested 3 weeks later. The city changed, but not cleanly, not easily. Fear faded, but questions remained. Was Daniel a criminal? A terrorist? Or a mirror the city didn't want to face? In prison, Daniel became silent. He refused interviews. Refused appeals. He read. He wrote. Sometimes he smiled at the guards and sometimes he stared at the wall for hours. Hale visited him once, years later. Was it worth it? Hale asked. Daniel thought for a long time before answering. They took me, he said. But they can't untake what they learned. Outside, the city lived on. Safer in some ways. More cautious in others. And though the I symbol faded from walls and headlines, people still remembered. Because long after the man who held the city in fear was taken, the fear itself had transformed into awareness. And awareness, unlike terror, never fully sleeps. Years passed, but the city never truly returned to what it had been before him. Time softened the sharpest edges of fear, yet it could not erase memory. New cafes opened where burned buildings once stood. Children returned to playgrounds. Streetlights stayed on late again. From the outside, it looked like healing. From the inside, it was something closer to vigilance. Daniel Cross became a name spoken less and less, but his shadow lingered. Every new scandal, every arrest of an official, every exposed lie was quietly compared to his work. People would say, half joking, half serious, the watcher would have known already. He had changed the city's instincts. Trust was no longer automatic. Power was no longer invisible. Detective Marcus Hale retired the year Daniel turned 40. His body had finally demanded what his mind refused to accept for years: rest. On his last day, Hale walked through the precinct one final time, touching doorframes, nodding at younger officers who knew his reputation but not his stories. He carried one file under his arm, the only case he had never archived properly. Daniel Cross. He placed it in a locked drawer and left without ceremony. Daniel, meanwhile, existed in a world reduced to schedules and silence. Prison stripped time of meaning. Days blended into each other, measured only by meals, counts, and the slow migration of sunlight across concrete walls. He was a model inmate. No fights. No trouble. He tutored others in basic literacy, repaired broken books in the library, and wrote endlessly in small, careful handwriting. Not confessions. Reflections. He never asked for news from outside, yet it reached him anyway, through guards, newspapers left behind, conversations overheard in hallways. Corrupt officials sentenced. Reforms passed. Some of the very systems he had fought were dismantled, piece by piece. Slowly. Imperfectly. But changed. Each time, Daniel felt neither triumph nor regret. Only a quiet confirmation that pressure, once applied, never truly disappears. One winter night, a riot broke out in a different wing of the prison. Shouting. Alarms. Smoke. Guards rushed past Daniel's cell without looking at him. For a brief moment, the old instinct stirred, the planning, the analysis, the awareness of exits and timing. He could have used the chaos. He knew how. But the moment passed. Daniel sat on his bunk, hands folded, breathing steadily, as if watching a memory rather than a temptation. Years later, a young journalist requested an interview. The request was denied 3 times before it was inexplicably approved. She sat across from Daniel in a cold visiting room, recorder shaking slightly in her hand. She expected menace, charisma, a villain's confidence. Instead, she found a man worn thin by time, eyes alert but distant. "Do you regret it?" she asked, echoing the question so many others had asked before. Daniel studied her face, searching not for the right answer, but for honesty. "Regret is a luxury," he said finally. "I did what the city taught me to do. I learned how power works. I just used the lesson. Would you do it again?" She pressed. Daniel looked past her, toward a narrow window frosted with age. "No," he said, "because now they are watching themselves." The interview was never published in full. Too uncomfortable. Too complex. Only fragments appeared online, stripped of context, debated endlessly. Some called him a monster. Others, a catalyst. Most people didn't know what to call him at all. The city continued forward, as cities always do. New leaders rose, aware that eyes, both real and remembered, were always on them. Laws tightened. Oversight increased. Corruption didn't vanish, but it learned to fear exposure more than it once had. And sometimes, late at night, when streets were quiet and windows reflected empty sidewalks, people felt it. Not fear, not exactly, but a sense of being observed. Not by a man. Not by a symbol. But by their own conscience, sharpened by the memory of what happens when silence lasts too long. Daniel Cross died quietly in his sleep on a rain-heavy morning no one would remember. No riots followed. No celebrations. Just a short notice buried deep in the news. Yet long after his cell was emptied and his name faded further into history, the city still lived by an unspoken rule he had carved into its bones. Power unchecked always believes it is invisible. Until someone dares to look back, the city learned of his death the way it learned of most things now. Slowly, skeptically, through fragments of information that refused to stay quiet. A notice here. A comment there. A brief mention on a late-night broadcast. Daniel Cross, deceased. Cause, natural. Age, 52. For most, it was just another name sliding past their attention. For others, it felt like the closing of a door they hadn't realized was still open. In the prison, his cell was emptied within hours. The mattress stripped. The notebooks boxed and labeled. Guards moved efficiently, impersonally, as they always did. Yet one of them paused, holding a thin stack of papers Daniel had requested be kept together. No one knew what was written there. Orders came quickly. Store them, seal them, no distribution. Some things, it seemed, were still considered dangerous even after death. Outside, a small group gathered near the courthouse that evening. No signs. No chance. Just people standing quietly, as if unsure why they had come at all. Candles appeared, then disappeared. By morning, there was no trace they had ever been there. Marcus Hale heard about Daniel's death from a former colleague over coffee. He didn't react at first. He stared at the surface of the table, tracing a crack in the wood with his finger. "So it's done," he said eventually. Not relieved. Not sad. Just acknowledging a fact. That night, Hale opened the locked drawer he hadn't touched in years. He read the file one last time. Then he burned it page by page in his backyard, watching the smoke rise and vanish into the dark. Weeks later, something subtle began to shift. It started with a city council member resigning without explanation. Then an internal audit leaked before it could be buried. A police captain stepped down after emails surfaced anonymously. No symbol appeared. No letters. No threats. Yet the timing was uncanny. The precision familiar. The city felt it in its bones. The watcher was gone, but the method remained. Investigators chased rumors of a network, a group inspired by Daniel's actions. They found nothing solid. No leader. No meetings. Just individuals, acting independently, armed with documents, data, and patience. People who had learned one crucial lesson from fear. Exposure works best when it doesn't announce itself. In a small apartment overlooking the river, a woman named Elise watched the news with quiet focus. Years ago, Daniel had saved her family without ever knowing their names. Her father's business had been destroyed by a corrupt official Daniel exposed. Elise had never met him. Never spoken his name aloud. But she had paid attention. She had become an accountant, then a forensic auditor. She believed in systems, in numbers, in truth that couldn't be argued away. Across the city, a teacher refused a bribe to change grades. A contractor reported his own company's violations. A journalist published a story she knew would end her career, but published it anyway. None of them coordinated. None of them claimed credit. The city didn't erupt into chaos or hero worship. It adjusted. Slowly. Uneasily. Honestly. Years passed again. A new generation grew up hearing stories that sounded almost mythical. About a man who frightened a city into looking at itself. Some stories exaggerated him into a legend. Others dismissed him as a criminal who got lucky. The truth sat somewhere in between, uncomfortable and unresolved. One evening, a young boy asked his mother why people still talked about the eye, even though it hadn't appeared in years. She thought for a moment before answering. Because it reminds us, she said, that someone once refused to look away. The city lights glowed across the river, reflecting in broken lines. Cars moved. Lives continued. No sirens. No letters. No shadows stalking the streets. Yet the fear Daniel once wielded had changed shape. It was no longer the fear of being hunted, but the fear of being exposed by truth itself. And that fear, quiet and persistent, proved far harder to escape. Because a city does not need a watcher forever. It only needs to remember what happens when someone finally opens their eyes. Years later, when the city celebrated its anniversary with fireworks and speeches, no one mentioned Daniel Cross by name. Officials spoke about progress, transparency, a new chapter. Applause echoed between polished buildings. Cameras flashed. Everything looked clean. Finished. But cities never truly finish anything. Late that night, when the crowds dispersed and the streets exhaled into silence, an elderly man stopped on a bridge overlooking the river. Marcus Hale leaned on the railing, feeling the cold metal through his coat. Below him, the water moved steadily, carrying reflections of light that broke and reformed again and again. He thought of all the years he had chased shadows, and of the one shadow that had chosen to stand still and be taken. Hale understood something only now, when it was too late to change anything. Daniel Cross had never wanted to rule the city, or destroy it, or even punish it. He had wanted to end his own invisibility. And in doing so, he had forced everyone else to confront theirs. Across town, in a public archive almost no one visited, a clerk finished cataloguing old prison records. One thin envelope slid into a box marked closed cases. Inside were copies of Daniel's notebooks, released quietly, long after anyone thought they mattered. There were no plans. No names. Only sentences written over and over in different ways. Power survives silence. Fear passes. Memory remains. Look, or be looked through. The city never reacted to their release. There were no headlines. No debates. But the words traveled slowly, shared by students, quoted in classrooms, scribbled in margins. They became less about a man and more about a warning. Time kept moving. New leaders rose. Some failed. Some tried. The city stumbled forward, imperfect and alert. Corruption still appeared, as it always would, but it no longer believed it could grow unseen. Somewhere, someone was always watching, not from rooftops or dark rooms, but from within. On the bridge, Hale straightened and turned back toward home. Behind him, the river carried on, indifferent yet enduring. Ahead of him, the city breathed, alive and aware. And so the story ended the only way it ever could have. Not with sirens. Not with fear. But with a city that had learned, at last, that the most dangerous thing of all is not being watched, but being seen. That was the end of the story. Stay with me until we meet again.